Alright, I was going to stream today, but I was exhausted, so I got home and I took a nap. And now, we're going to try and play Sultai Teaching Reclamation. A deck that we've encountered several times, the past few times we've played Magic the Gathering. One that has annoyed us a little bit, one that we've tried to mill at least twice, and rather unsuccessfully, might I add. So, quick breakdown of this deck. You have a rather standard Sultai mana base with fetches and shocks. There's a couple of check lands in there, man lands in the form of Creeping Tar Pit. Some argue the best man land because it is unblockable. On the 1-drop slot, we have Opt as our cantrip of choice. A lot of things that this deck wants to do is at instant speed. Very, very, very few things at sorcery speed. We have Spell Snare to help counter stuff really early, get a little bit of a tempo advantage, and Fatal Push to ward off aggro. Remand is our 2-drop counterspell of choice. Delaying until victory is much more important than actually answering the threat, because theoretically this deck wins very early. Snapcaster Mage to buy back our cheap spells. Devour Flesh as probably a hedge versus any sort of hexproof deck. Anything that goes tall, and just as a Diabolic Edict, because we really don't care that much about life total. We will win the game through pretty much any amount of life gain, except the most absurd. We theoretically can take as many turns as we need to beat our opponent down. Also, Snapcaster part of our win condition with the damage. We have Abrupt Decay and Assassin's Trophy as the standard black-green answers of choice. They allow us to hit pretty much anything that could possibly be a problem. Assassin's Trophy we could buy back with Snapcaster Mage. Also worthy of note, pretty much every spell we've looked at thus far is still an instant. If we needed to, we could Teachings for it. Growth Spiral, excellent ramp spell, especially in a deck like this where we want additional lands that are going to untap later. And Logic Knot, just as our kind of catch-all. Pulse of Murasa is a pseudo-ramp spell because it allows us to buy a land back from the graveyard, especially like fetch lands, or if our opponent Ghost Quartered a Tar Pit, we could get back a Tar Pit. We could also use it to buy back Snapcaster it, and then use it to buy back something else from the grave. It doesn't put additional lands into play, but it helps us draw lands, if that makes sense. Hieroglyphic Illumination, just as another cantrip / possibly card advantage spell, also worthy of instant speed even if it's cycled. Mystical Teachings, one of the namesakes of the deck, allows us to search our deck for any card that is an instant or has flash, and then has flashback for 6 mana. In the past, a long time ago, and many galaxies far away, Teachings was actually used as part of control decks, where it was a Silver Bullet style deck, and you could Teachings for those cards. Those decks have long since disappeared because the variety of threats and the pressure of the modern format is way too wide and way too fast. But still, I like the card. Then we have Cryptic Command as our good catch-all, answer anything we need to spell. If we're taking infinite turns, this lets us bounce any permanent that would be a problem as we're taking turns. It's a hard counter, it draws, it fogs, it does everything, theoretically. Then one of our 2 combo pieces, we have Wilderness Reclamation, for anyone who's not familiar and beating their head against a wall because this is still in standard. At the beginning of your end step, you untap all lands you control, meaning that 4 mana is now 8 mana. 5 mana is 10, 6 is 12, and so on. It's a very, very powerful spell. So, to abuse this instant mana at the end step, most of our spells are instant speed. Everything in this deck is instant speed, in fact, except for Wilderness Reclamation, I believe. And we take advantage of that by drawing basically our whole deck with Blue Sun Zenith, anything that's left that hasn't been tutored for, we haven't grinded out for, and then drawing Nexus of Fate every single turn, because we can Mystical Teachings for Nexus of Fate, Mystical Teachings for Blue Sun Zenith, draw our whole deck, cast Nexus of Fate on our end step, untap, draw Nexus of Fate, cast Nexus of Fate ad nauseum until we win the game. And we win with Snapcaster and Creeping Tar Pit. Out of the sideboard, a couple of interesting inclusions I've seen in this deck. Teferi, Mage of Zhalfir. This was another thing that's fun to cast Teachings for, because it's not just tutor for an instant, it's tutor for an instant or anything you have with flash. So Teferi is excellent versus control decks. Any slower matchups, control decks rely on casting spells at instant speed, and if they can no longer do that, you're probably going to win the game. And Dispels, also for the control matchup. Ceremonious Rejection versus Tron or any sort of colorless deck in Modern. Surgical Extraction is the best card to cast versus Grave Hate at possible. We have a couple of Fatal Pushes in the side to also help beat down aggro. And Echoing Decay, this is an interesting choice. Target creature and all other creatures with the same name get -2/-2 until end of turn. This is very good versus tokens. We have Crypt Incursion. Also, not entirely sure why this one's in here. I'm gonna have to play around with it to see, but we're not milling our opponent, so we might just be using this to gain as a life gain spell, because we do have a lot of kill spells, we do have a lot of counter spells. Hero's Downfall as kind of our catch-all murder. And Consume the Meek, one of the only instant speed board wipes that exists, where we smother targeting every single creature. So we destroy all creatures with CMC 3 or less, and they can't be regenerated. Versus Burn, we have Life Goes On. So gain 4 life, Morbid. If a creature died, gain 8 life instead for 1 mana. It's pretty good. Shadow of Doubt versus anything that runs fetch lands, anything we want to stifle mana, anything that's going to search its deck like Scape Shift. We want to run Shadow of Doubt. This is good versus Cord. Pretty versatile 2-mana cantrip. And finally, Fracturing Gust versus Boggles, Affinity, anything that wants to spam the board with artifacts and enchantments. We're going to gain a bunch of life and completely and utterly nullify the board. Alright. So without any further goings on, let's go ahead and take this into some 2-mans. Alright. Yeah, we'd love to play first. Yeah, this is pretty good. We can fetch up a Watery Grave, we'll have Hinterland Harbor, and turn on pretty much every spell in our hand. We just need to draw more lands. Play Misty Rainforest, pass the turn. See what our opponent's up to. One plays a City of Brass. Ad nauseum? Maybe? Could be Dredge. Opponent Faithless Lootings. It's probably Dredge. Opponent discards Stinkweed Imp Golgari Thug. Well, that's a pretty strong start for Dredge. So start Watery Grave, and we'll opt. Snapcaster to the bottom. We draw Blue Sun Zenith. We would like lands. Untap, draw Growth Spiral. Play Hinterland Harbor, pass the turn. If our opponent doesn't cast something worth logic nodding here, we definitely have to Growth Spiral, which is kind of unfortunate. Opponent dredges their Stinkweed Imp, dumps a Bloodghast, and another Prized Amalgam into the grave. Opponent shocks, plays Stomping Grounds, reanimates 2 Bloodghasts, and a Prized Amalgam. Okay, let's cycle Growth Spiral. We do not find a land. That's very disheartening. Untap, draw Breeding Pool. I think we have to shock Breeding Pool so we can Snapcaster opt. We're very close to landing this Wilderness Reclamation. And if we land Wilderness Reclamation, we're going to very quickly after that be able to start taking over the game here, between Nexus of Fate and Blue Sun Zenith being in our hand. Okay, so flash in Snapcaster Mage. Target opt. We will block Prized Amalgam to keep Bloodghasts from having haste this turn. This way, if they play any more or dredge any more into the grave and can't manage to reanimate them this turn, we will actually be able to not get hit by them next turn. But it probably is flashing back Faithless Looting. Okay. Takes 1 damage off their City of Brass. Loots Faithlessly. Dredges Dark Blast. Dredges Life from the Loam and reveals a Creeping Chill. It's their free Lightning Helix from the graveyard, targeting our face. We lose 3 life, they gain 3 life. Okay. And at their end step, we opt. Wilderness Reclamation to the bottom. Draw an island. Untap, we draw Mystical Teachings. We'll play an island. Opponent has exactly 8. We do have an Assassin's Trophy. So play Wilderness Reclamation. This Assassin's Trophy theoretically keeps us alive unless our opponent dredges another Creeping Chill or manages to dredge a Conflagrate. So we'll untap all our lands and pass the turn. Opponent dredges a Stinkweed Imp. Goes attacking. Okay. We Assassin's Trophy Prized Amalgam. Okay. They get a land. Reanimate Bloodghast, which reanimates both Prized Amalgams. Hit us for 5. We go to 3. When it probably casts Life from the Loam. Opponent taps for black. Hard casts a Creeping Chill. Thankfully, we do have a Logic Knot for the Creeping Chill. We would really like to draw some lands off the top of our deck. Okay, opponent gets their 2 Amalgams back. There's a land. Play the land. Pass to our end step. Untap all our lands. Cast Nexus of Fate. We do need another land. Play Creeping Tar Pit. Cast Mystical Teachings. Find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So go find our Nexus of Fate. Pass to our end step. Float mana. Untap. Take an extra turn. Untap. We draw Growth Spiral. We can flashback Teachings for all of our mana, but we need 1 more to cast Nexus of Fate. So I think our best bet is to draw 3 cards here. I think this is our best bet. We'll target ourselves. Draw 3 cards. We need a Cryptic Command. Okay. Pass to our end step. Untap all our lands. We opt. Snapcaster does not do it. Snapcaster to the bottom. We draw Remand. Desperation Growth Spiral. Play Hinterland Harbor. And we're toast. We can't get out of this one. Dang. Alright, well, opponent wins. So, versus Dredge. We'll bring in Crypt Incursion, Surgical Extraction, And I feel like Consume the Meek and Echoing Decay are worth bringing in, because they answer a whole bunch of creatures all at once. Like, Echoing Decay can answer a field of Bloodghasts for a turn, like Fog 'em. Consume the Meek kills everything our opponent can produce. And I feel like Life Goes On might be important, because Spell Snare and Remand are really bad versus Dredge. Like, Remand is not totally out of the question, but it's not fantastic. I guess Devour Flesh. Try it like this. Alright. Well, we have Fetch Breeding Pool opt into Drowned Catacomb Growth Spiral. We would really like to draw a land for our first draw step. Play a Misty Rainforest, pass the turn. Opponent plays a mountain. Plays a Faithless Looting. Discards Golgari Thug and Prized Amalgam. Alright, well, we fetch up a Breeding Pool. Shock. And opt. We will keep Tar Pit. Untap. We draw Breeding Pool. Play Drowned Catacomb. So next turn with Growth Spiral, we will be able to cast Wilderness Reclamation, because we can Growth Spiral Creeping Tar Pit in on their end step, and then play Breeding Pool untapped on our turn. And I think in that scenario, we can Mystical Teachings for probably... I'm not sure exactly what we should Teachings for first. Oh gosh. Opponent discards Conflagrate and Golgari Thug. Dredges, and dredges a Creeping Chill. So we get hit. Opponent passes. Well, on their end step, cast Growth Spiral, put in Creeping Tar Pit. Opponent gets back 2 Amalgams. We untap, we draw Flooded Grove. Play Flooded Grove. Play Wilderness Reclamation. Pass turn, untap all our lands. So, Creeping Chill, I believe, if they dredge it into the grave and you remove it before it's exiled, because it triggers, if you remove it before, if you exile it before it exiles itself, it doesn't go off. So we might Mystical Teachings for a Surgical Extraction to handle Creeping Chills if our opponent discarded a whole bunch, as an example. Opponent attacks for 7. They do have a Conflagrate in the grave and 7 cards in hand, so as long as we prevent 1 damage here, we should stay alive, though that's kind of depressing. So let's Fatal Push this Narcomoeba. Take 6, go to 8. See what our opponent does. Opponent Cathartic Reunion. Dredges 1 Creeping Chill. Dredges 2 Creeping Chills and an Archamoeba. Ooh, this is gonna hurt. So we take 6, go to 2, and our opponent gets a free 1/1 flyer. We untap, we draw Fatal Push. Play Breeding Pool, tapped. Pass to our end step. Float all our mana. Untap. Cast Nexus of Fate. I guess we'll Fatal Push this Narcomoeba for good measure. Untap, we draw Opt. So if we Teachings for, I guess, Nexus of Fate. Let's see, that doesn't work. Because we wouldn't have enough mana to cast it. Oh, we should have kept that Fatal Push, because we could have Teachings for Life Goes On, potentially. Let's opt and see what we get. Hieroglyphic Illumination. It's to the bottom. Draw Snapcaster. So we could Mystical Teaching for Cryptic Command. Actually, we could Mystical Teachings for Crypt Incursion. Do they have a lot of creatures in the grave still? They only have 2. 3. 3 creatures in the grave. That doesn't do very much. It gains us 9 life, we go to 11. Opponent hits us for 6, they conflagrate for lethal. No, that doesn't do it. We could Snapcaster Opt, and then block and block. But we're dead to conflagrate if we do that. Unless we draw like a Cryptic Command. So let's Mystical Teaching for, I guess Pulse of Marasa can probably keep us alive. I didn't think about that. Playing decks like this that can tutor a whole bunch of different spells are very difficult sometimes. So we'll take Pulse of Marasa. Pass the turn. Untap all our lands. Pulse Misty Rainforest. But I think we're still dead to conflagrate. I don't think we really had an out. Opponent dredges life from the loam. If they just cast life from the loam, we do survive another turn. They cast loam. Opponent reanimates 1 Bloodghast. I guess the only way we die is if they have like a Dark Blast here. Opponent Thought Seizes. I'll flash in a Snapcaster to block. Target anything, really. Okay, opponent loses 2 life. Goes to combat. Attacks with everything. Do we... Yeah. I think we're not going to be able to answer every creature anyway, so... Take 5, go to 3. Untap. Opponent discards to hand size and discards a Stinkweed Imp. We draw Snapcaster Mage. Play Misty. We can Snapcaster for Pulse of Marasa. We can also Flashback Teachings. If we Flashback Teachings, we can go and get Cryptic Command. If we flashback Teachings, we can get Logic Knot. Snapcaster, Pulse. Can't do all of it, though. We could flashback Teachings and get Consume the Meek. Then untap Snapcaster, Pulse to survive potentially this Conflagrate. I think that's our best bet. So let's fetch with... Oh wait, that doesn't work, does it? I'm using too much mana here. Let's get an island. If we flashback Teachings, we can get Consume the Meek. But then we only have 1 mana. So let's flashback Teachings and I guess get Cryptic Command. Unless there's something else. We could get Life Goes On. Life Goes On. Snapcaster, Life Goes On. Something like that. That might allow us to survive. I think we're going to try to do that. Okay. Untap all our lands. Opponent dredges Stinkweed Imp. So if we Snapcaster Pulse of Marasa, pick up Snapcaster, then cast Life Goes On, I think we can survive. Because we can gain 6, go to 8, block Prized Amalgam, take 7, go to 1. Opponent can discard their whole hand to Conflagrate, and we could still Life Goes On. So Snapcaster. Target Pulse of Marasa. Pulse of Marasa. Target Snapcaster. Go to 8. Block Amalgam. Take 7 and go to 1. We're just barely hanging on here, I think. They only have 1 Conflagrate, it looks like. My apologies, by the way, if I'm playing this slow, even with all the editing that I'm going to do after the fact, because playing a deck full of silver bullets that I'm not accustomed to is very difficult. Opponent, I think, is going to go for the Creeping Chill into Conflagrate play. Opponent dredges a Stinkweed Imp, dumps another Conflagrate and a Narcomoeba, and then dredges a Life from the Loam. Okay. Opponent reanimates Narcomoeba. Gets back 2 Amalgams. And opponent plays a Shriekhorn. Mills themselves. They do not mill any Creeping Chills. So cast Life Goes On, go to 9. Opponent gets back their amalgams. Draw life goes on. That's actually, I think, enough, maybe? So we can Snapcaster. Can Snapcaster push, block. That's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, plus 9. We can't gain enough life. So we have to Snapcaster now for opt. We opt, forest to the bottom, draw logic knot. Yeah, that's not gonna do it. Yeah, we have no other way to buy back. Dang! Okay! Sultai teaching Reclamation. Alright, we're against control. So start Polluted Delta, pass the turn. Opponent plays a Flooded Strand. We fetch with Polluted Delta and find a Watery Grave, tapped. Untap, we draw Hieroglyphic Illumination. We'll play Misty Rainforest, pass the turn. Opponent opts. Fetches with Flooded Strand. Finds a Hallowed Fountain tapped. Untaps. Plays a Flooded Strand. Well, let's fetch an island. Untap, we draw Mystical Teachings. Play a forest. Pass the turn. Opponent plays an island. Passes. We untap, we draw Growth Spiral. Play Drowned Catacomb. Pass the turn. Opponent does not crack their Flooded Strand. Plays a Hallowed Fountain tapped. Well, let's cast a Hieroglyphic Illuminations. Draw 2 cards. Untap. We got a lot of land here. Play Breeding Pool. Tapped. Main phase of Growth Spiral. Put in Breeding Pool, tapped. Okay. Pass the turn, hold up Remand. Opponent plays an island. Passes. We draw Nexus of Fate. So play Field of Ruin. And we might just try and fire off this Nexus of Fate on our opponent's end step, depending on what they do here. Opponent plays a Field of Ruin. Because, like, if they don't counter it, we take 2 turns. If they do counter it, it goes back in the deck. So, let's cast a Nexus of Fate. Opponent lets it resolve. Interesting. Play an island. Let's go ahead and play a Wilderness Reclamation. Does opponent just not have any counter spells? I guess pass to our end step. Untap all our lands. Cast a Teachings. Should have floated mana. Get Nexus of Fate. Snapcaster Mage. Target Growth Spiral. Cast a Growth Spiral. See what our opponent wants to do here. Play Watery Grave, tapped. Untap. We draw Misty Rainforest. We'll play Misty. Attack for 2. Fetch with Misty. Find an island. Cast Nexus of Fate. Alright, pass to our end step. Float our mana. Untap all our lands. Flashback Teachings. We go for Nexus of Fate or Blue Sun Zenith? I think we take Blue Sun Zenith. Draw some number of cards here, that number being 4. We get to untap and take another turn here, so even if they have a Cryptic to counter this. Okay, opponent Cryptic commands to counter Blue Sun Zenith. We untap. We draw a Cryptic command. Play Polluted Delta. Go to combat. Attack for 2. We have so many more lands than our opponent. I think we're gonna pass. I don't know, maybe getting Blue Sun Zenith was a mistake. Maybe getting Blue Sun Zenith countered there was a mistake. We could have waited till next turn where we could have done it with a card counter backup. But we'll see. I want to cast Jace. We will counter and draw. We get Teachings. Opponent plays an island. Passes. So fetch with Polluted Delta. Pick up an island. Mystical Teachings. Opponent lets it go. Let's get Nexus of Fate. I mean, I don't know why our opponent is lagging so far behind here, unless they're going to try and click it away, like Vendilion click. Okay, we pass, we draw. Assassin's Trophy. Let's go ahead and cast Nexus of Fate. Okay, Nexus of Fate resolves. Attack for 2. Take our opponent to 13. Pass to our end step. Nuke this colonnade. Opponent floats mana. Casts Vendilion Click. They were thinking about it. Takes a peek at her hand. Best part is, though, we get to untap and take another turn. Opponent throws away Cryptic Command. We hit Colonnade, get a Swamp. And untap all our lands. So now, we can Snapcaster Mage for Blue Sun Zenith. Blue Sun's basically all of our mana except for 2. So we draw 4. Okay, we draw Teachings and a Remand, both of which are super good. Untap, we draw Polluted Delta. So play Creeping Tar Pit. Main phase Teachings. Go get Nexus of Fate. Assassin's Trophy, Vendilion Click. So that our opponent does not have any blockers. Get in for 4. Pass to our end step. Float all of our mana. Untap all of it. Cast Nexus of Fate. Flashback Teachings. Or Nexus of Fate. Untap. We draw Devour Flesh. Play Flooded Grove. Cast Nexus of Fate. Get in for 4. Pass to our end step. Float all of our mana. Untap it. Flashback Mystical Teachings. Or Nexus of Fate. Cast Nexus of Fate. Okay. Untap. Draw Wilderness Reclamation. Animate Tar Pit. Attack for lethal with double remand backup. Hey, we got there! Cool, cool. Okay, so versus control. Versus control, we want to do very nasty things to our control opponent. So we're going to bring in Shadow of Doubt. We're going to bring in Teferi, Dispel, Dispel. We're going to bring in, I think, Hero's Downfall, just in case they manage to resolve a Planeswalker that we need to answer. Surgical Extraction, and I'm considering Fracturing Gust because they do run Detention Spheres. We might need to answer a Detention Sphere. I'm not sure if that's actually good enough, though. So what do we cut? Let's cut Devour, or let's cut Fatal Push. Pretty much only hits Colonnade. We'll cut a Cryptic Command. We'll cut Devour Flesh. We'll cut an Opt and a Snapcaster. I expect our opponent is going to bring in some kind of Grave Hate. And if in that case, we might want to cut this Pulse of Marasa, but we'll see. We might if we go to game 3. Try it like this. Lots of lands, Wilderness Reclamation, but no real action. I think we're gonna mulligan. Okay, we'll keep this hand. Abrupt Decay. Abrupt Decay to the top, I think, just in case. We might need it. Opponent starts island. Cast a Serum Visions. Opponent tops. We draw Abrupt Decay, play Creeping Tar Pit, pass the turn. Opponent plays a second island. We draw a Mystical Teachings. We'll shock Breeding Pool so that we can represent Abrupt Decay counterspell or like double cantrip. Opponent plays a Field of Ruin. Okay, let's cast an Opt. Cryptic Command to the bottom. To Fairy. Untap. Draw Breeding Pool. Well, let's shock Breeding Pool. Pass the turn. Okay. Opponent casts Vendilion Click. Well, we can't counter it. I think we need to Abrupt Decay it. Yeah. Let's Abrupt Decay. Opponent can then take whatever they want. Which they might consider not... they might consider not taking anything, because we are kind of struggling for lands at the moment. Okay, opponent does not have us discard any cards. Opponent plays a Hallowed Fountain tapped. We really would like a land. It's a Growth Spiral. Well, pass the turn. Opponent opts. Opponent plays a Glacial Fortress. And plays a Lyra Dawnbringer. Well, we will Snapcaster Mage. Or an Opt. Cast an Opt. Growth Spiral to the bottom. Draw Logic Knot. Lyra resolves. We draw Nexus of Fate. So main phase Growth Spiral. Really want this land. We draw Polluted Delta. Play Polluted Delta. Fetch up an island. Growth Spiral again. Breeding Pool tapped. Whew! Alright. We don't attack into the massive 5/5 flying first strike lifelink. Other angels get 1/1 and have lifelink. Opponent attacks for 5. Opponent plays a Flooded Strand, fetches with Flooded Strand, and finds a Hallowed Fountain. Shocks. Opponent casts a Serum Visions. One card on the bottom, one card on the top. Plays to Fairy. Pluses to Fairy. Untaps 2 lands. We untap. We draw Growth Spiral. We do have a Logic Knot. Teachings doesn't grab us anything useful at the moment. We really need some lands. I think we attack to Fairy first. If we had a black land, I would animate Creeping Tar Pit. Okay, pass the turn. Opponent draws a card with Teferi. Does not attack. Plays a Scalding Tarn. Let Teferi's trigger resolve. I think I'm actually going to try and cast a fairy here. I wish I could do it with counterspell backup. I wish I had more lands to do things with, but I think this is my best bet here. If this resolves, we have free reign to cast stuff on our turn. They can't cast counterspells or kill spells. If this resolves and we untap and draw a land, and we can do Cryptic Command plus Logic Knot next turn, I think we'll be okay. It resolved. We untap. We draw Spell Snare. Okay. Oh, dang. Well, pass the turn. And we'll hold up, I think, Logic Knot plus Spell Snare and Growth Spiral. Opponent pluses to Fairy. Goes to Path to Fairy, Mage of Zalfir. Let's Cryptic Command, counter it, and bounce Lyra. I would have bounced Teferi had they not activated him first, but that also gives them out of playing Teferi and... Well, I guess if they played Teferi and minus Teferi, then we would have swung in if we could answer this Lyra. Well, Spell Snare basically any 2-drop here. Opponent Snapcasters, we Spell Snare. Opponent opts. Puts a card on the bottom. Draws a path. Well, the good news is this gets us a black source for this Creeping Tar Pit. Opponent untaps 2 lands. We untap, we draw Mystical Teachings. Well, animate Creeping Tar Pit. Go to combat. Attack with both. Attack to Fairy. Okay, opponent cracks Field of Ruin. We lose Tar Pit. Get an island. Opponent cracks Scalding Tarn. Opts. Fairy takes 2. Pass the turn. Opponent draws a card with Teferi. Plays a land. Plays Lyra. We attempt to Logic Knot Lyra. For 4. Go to mana leaks. Okay, we can't pay 3 for mana leak. Lyra resolves. Opponent untaps 2 lands. We draw a Dispel. Fire off Growth Spiral. Draw Growth Spiral. Ugh. This is the worst. We haven't drawn like any lands. It's because I shipped that hand that was all lands. They're like, no. You're not going to draw us ever again. When it gets in for 5, we take 5. When it gets to untap lands. Cast a Hieroglyphic Illumination. I'm going to cast a Growth Spiral. No lands. Alright, opponent can have their Growth Spiral. Would like to draw our other Dispel off the top. We draw Misty Rainforest. We'll play a Misty. Sack Misty. Get a Forest. Play Wilderness Reclamation. Opponent negates. Spell negate. Opponent dispels Dispel. And that's game. Alright, so versus control. Is there anything else we want to be running? Nah, let's just run it back. Alright. We'll play first. Alright. Come on, deck. We just need to draw some lands. With some lands, this hand becomes really good. So, Shock Breeding Pool. Go ahead and opt right off the bat. Surgical to the bottom. Draw Cryptic. We need some lands. Opponent plays a Colonnade. We draw an island. Play an island. Pass the turn. Leave up Remand just in case there's a search for Iskanta. See if our opponent counters a Growth Spiral. They don't. Play Flooded Grove. Untap. We draw Hinterland Harbor. Okay, that's super good. Pass the turn. I'm going to actually bounce Colonnade and draw a card. If our opponent has a Dispel, they're going to Dispel us anyway. But if they don't, we're going to keep them off of lands. Oh my gosh! Oh, that feels so good. Opponent has to play a tap land next turn, unless they have a different land. Okay, opponent does have a Glacial Fortress, but now has to discard at their end step. Discards a Field of Ruin. We draw a Spell Snare. Play Creeping Tar Pit. Pass the turn. Opponent plays Colonnade. Let's cast Teachings. Opponent lets it go. We'll get... Let's get Dispel. It's good to have a Dispel in the pocket versus control, even if they know it's coming. We draw a Snapcaster. Alright. Pass the turn. We have so many reactive spells in our hand right now. When it plays a Hollow Fountain tapped. So let's bounce Colonnade and draw. Oh, it floats a blue. Disdainful Strokes. We Spell Snare Disdainful Stroke. Opponent Dispel, Spell Snare. Okay. Well, we got a couple counter spells out of their hand. We draw an Opt, play an Opt. Spell to the bottom. Draw Breeding Pool. Play Breeding Pool tapped. Pass the turn. One plays a Glacial Fortress. Passes. Alright, untap. We draw Polluted Delta. Play Polluted Delta. Pass the turn. Opponent plays an island. Passes. Fetch with Polluted Delta. Find a Watery Grave tapped. And let's flashback Mystical Teachings. And get Teferi. Untap. Draw Polluted Delta. Play Polluted Delta. Pass the turn. Having a pocket Teferi versus control and greatly outpacing the number of lands they're playing is pretty good. I don't know about greatly outpacing, but... Crack Polluted Delta. Get a Breeding Pool. Cast Pulse of Marasa. Get it back Polluted Delta. And then pass. We draw Mystical Teachings. Play Polluted Delta. Pass the turn. Opponent passes. So let's Teachings. And we'll get Nexus of Fate. Crack Polluted Delta. Get a Watery Grave. Untap. Draw Hinterland Harbor. Play Hinterland Harbor. Pass the turn. We are going to have so many counter spells when we cast this Teferi. Opponent plays a Colonnade. Cast Nexus of Fate. Opponent Snapcaster Mage. Sure. Targets Disdainful Stroke. Cast Disdainful Stroke. Remand Disdainful Stroke. And they know we have the Dispel because we tutored for it. Opponent Snapcaster Mage. For Dispel. Dispel's Remand. Well, Dispel, Dispel. Draw a card off Remand. Take an extra turn. Untap. We draw Island. Play Polluted Delta. Crack Polluted Delta. Get an island. Cast Teferi. because we have 2 turns, basically. Then Flashback Teachings. Pick up what do we pick up? I guess Blue Sun Zenith. Pass to our extra turn. Untap. We draw Forest. We'll play a Forest. Blue Sun for a bunch. Draw 5 cards. Pass the turn. When it casts a Detention Sphere. Let's force him to play more answers. Okay. Logic Gnotic, 6. Opponent ousts to Fairy. Plays a Colonnade. Gets in for 4. We take it. Play a Growth Spiral. Play an Island. Cycle Hieroglyphic Illumination. Untap. Draw Cryptic Command. Play Wilderness Reclamation. Play Misty Rainforest. Crack Misty Rainforest. Get our last island. Play Teferi with Cryptic backup. Untap all our lands. Pass the turn. Opponent paths. Snapcaster Dispel. Actually, let's Snapcaster Cryptic. They can't counter the Cryptic. Counter draw. Opponent casts a Baneslayer Angel. Passes. Okay, at their end step, let's tap all their creatures and draw. Growth Spiral. Put in Drowned Catacomb. Untap, we draw Wilderness Reclamation. Attack for 5. Pass the turn. Probably should have animated Tar Pit with how low we are on time. Opponent goes to combat. Snapcaster for Cryptic. Opponent cannot cast any spells due to Teferi. Tap all our opponent's creatures and draw. Oops, wrong color of mana. We draw Remand. Opponent passes. We untap. We draw Polluted Delta. Animate Creeping Tar Pit. Attack for a bunch. If I'm 3 off lethal, I apologize severely. Opponent animates a Colonnade. Kill the Colonnade. Opponent goes to 4. Untap all our lands. Yeah, we probably should have bounced one of our Snapcasters there. If our opponent plays any spell at all, we cast a Remand. Doesn't matter what it is. Opponent attacks for 7. We take it. Opponent gains 5. Goes to 9. Opponent Cryptic commands, targeting Snapcaster Mage. We remand. We draw Field of Ruin. I think I actually misplayed enough that we might lose depending on our top deck here. There's a ton of cards we can top deck that'll just run away with the game, but opponent is going to bounce our Cryptic. Sure. They draw a card. They pass. We untap. We draw. Remand. Play Tar Pit. Oh gosh. Attack like this. Opponent blocks. They take 3. We have to actually block a Snapcaster here. And that might mean we need to animate Tar Pit to do it. If they have creature removal. Opponent casts a Serum Visions. 1 card on the bottom and 1 card on top. Opponent plays a Plains. Animates a Colonnade. Attacks for a lot. Block their Snapcaster with our Snapcaster. Okay, we go to 2. Opponent passes. We draw Blue Sun Zenith. That should do it. So animate Tar Pit. Attack for 6. Play second Wilderness Reclamation. Pass to our end step. Float all of our mana. Untap all of our mana. Float all of our mana. Untap all of our mana. Blue Sun Zenith. We kill our opponent. 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Let's kill our opponent with Blue Sun Zenith. That seems really fun. They can't counterspell it because we have Teferi on board. And this technically is faster than spraying and praying with Blue Sun. Well, I mean, we will draw Nexus of Fate, but make our opponent draw 37 cards? And we win! Getting the High Tide kill. We're going to mulligan. We definitely want 2 lands. 3 in a Growth Spiral, ideally, I think. Well, it does something, so we'll keep this hand. Hieroglyphic Illumination. We'll bottom that. We don't really need a cantrip at the moment. When it starts Inspiring Vantage and Goblin Guide. Draw us a land, Goblin Guide. Thank you. We untap. We draw Creeping Tar Pit. We don't need green mana yet, so I'm just going to go ahead and start Tar Pit. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Plays a Wooded Foothills. Monastery Swiftspear. Cracks Wooded Foothills and finds either Stomping Ground or a mountain, I assume. It's a Stomping Ground. So they've probably got some main deck Atarka's commands. One of Lava Spikes gets a Prowess trigger. Gonna get in for 7 damage. Draw us a land, Goblin Guide. Nexus of Fate on top. Well, that's not exactly what we want to draw right now. Play an island, pass the turn. Something tells me this hand might be too slow. Kind of need our fatal pushes, I think. When it gets in, gets in. Goblin Guide trigger. There's an opt. Let's go ahead and Devour Flesh. Opponent Lightning Helixes our face, gets a Prowess trigger on Monastery Swiftspear. Sacks the Goblin Guide, gains 2 life. We go to 6. We untap, we draw an opt. Play a swamp, pass the turn. Want to be able to opt and remand this turn. Opponent gonna get in for 1. We go to 5. Opponent Atarka's command. Well, remand Atarka's command. Draw Mystical Teachings. Cast an opt. Growth Spiral to the bottom. Draw another Teachings. Opponent hits us for 2, we go to 4. Well, okay, Fatal Push lets us stay alive. Play Polluted Delta, pass the turn. Opponent plays a Goblin Guide. Plays a Swiftspear. How do we get out of this one? We can Cryptic tap and draw, but we really need green mana. If we fetch and shock to Cryptic, we go to 1 and we're dead on untap because they have an Atarka's command. So short of another Cryptic, we'd be completely toast. This is discounting the fact that they might have land and a bolt. Well, let's get our green mana. Tap and draw. Draw Growth Spiral. Opponent passes. We untap. We draw Cryptic Command. Play Watery Grave tapped. Pass the turn. Hopefully our opponent just instantly casts a Atarka's command. Oh, I didn't even tap. We're just toast. Yeah. We weren't winning that game. Okay. So, Fatal Push, life goes on. Probably want Crypt Incursion, Echoing Decay isn't bad. Shadow of Doubt. Shadow of Doubt's really good because they run a lot of fetch lands and we're going to need a lot of cycle. What do we go down? I feel like Remand is pretty bad, so we're going to go ahead and drop Remands. I think Devour Flesh doesn't really have any utility for us. We can't nuke any of our own stuff. Maybe we want Consume the Meek. We'll do Consume the Meek, I think, over maybe a Cryptic. Drop an Opt. And we'll cut... Need to cut one more card. Let's cut... maybe a Growth Spiral. No, let's cut a Reclamation. I think we need Reclamation. We'll cut a Growth Spiral. I like this. Alright, yes, we'd love to play first. Yeah, this hand's keepable. We can fetch and shock for a Watery Grave, have a Hinterland Harbor ready to go, Fatal Push Life goes on. We can cycle Hieroglyphic Illuminations. We have a lot of options here. A lot of early game, which is really good versus burn. So start Polluted Delta, pass the turn. We do have to be careful about when we cast Life Goes On, because our opponent is likely running Skullcracks and Atarka's commands. Opponent starts Inspiring Vantage into Goblin Guide. Attacks. We draw an island. So let's fetch up a Watery Grave. We're gonna go Watery Grave tapped. Take 2. Play a Hinterland Harbor, pass the turn. I think we're gonna Growth Spiral here, unless our opponent plays an Eidolon of the Great Revel. Opponent gets in for 2. Reveals a Life Goes On. Okay, that's good. That's a really good top deck. Opponent plays an Arid Mesa, cracks Arid Mesa and finds. Stomping Ground, shocks it in. Opponent plays an Eidolon. So let's Growth Spiral. Put an island into play. Cycle Illumination. Draw Shadow of Doubt. Okay. So let's untap. Draw Teachings. Play an island. Kill Eidolon. Could be relevant doing this on our turn just in case they have a Boros Charm. Cast a Life Goes On while they're tapped out. Go up to 21, pass the turn. It's really tempting to just cast this Snapcaster as a blocker, but we really want to be flashing back a Life Goes On if we can. Abrupt Decay on top of our deck. That's going to be somewhat useful, just as a kill spell. Opponent plays an Eidolon. Okay. We untap, we draw Abrupt Decay. I think we Snapcaster for Fatal Push, and then Life Goes On. We take a bunch of damage, but we, I think, end up net positive. Because we lose 4 and gain 8. So Snapcaster, Fatal Push. Fatal Push, Eidolon. Take 3. Or take 2, excuse me. Life Goes On. Gain 8. Go up to 23, pass the turn. Now we have a blocker for Goblin Guide, unless our opponent has a Searing Blood or a... the Landfall, or just a Bolt. Okay, opponent bolts our face. Goes on the big attack. Top of our deck is a Pulse of Marasa. That's a really, really good top deck. Okay, so we lose Snapcaster, we untap, we draw a Pulse. We Pulse for Polluted Delta because we really need to be hitting our land drops. If we can make it up to 6 lands, we can Mystical Teachings for an Echoing Decay and take out all of the Monastery Swift Spears at once. Alright, pass the turn. This deck has a lot of life gain. I'm very happy with that. And yes, we did draw both Life Goes On, but the opponent gets in for 2. We take it. Opponent plays a Stomping Ground tapped. Alright, well, odds are they don't have another fetch land at this point. So let's get... Don't really need a second black source. We'd like a second green source, but we also want to cycle Shadow of Doubt this turn. Let's just get an island. Cycle Shadow of Doubt. Get a Flooded Grove. Untap. We draw Crypt Incursion. Okay, that's also really good. Play a Flooded Grove. Pass the turn. If our opponent bolts us end step, they're going to be really sad. So we're going to take a lot of damage here. But hopefully we can surprise them with an Echoing Decay. Either on our turn. Like, I'd like them to draw and play a land, or just go ahead and fire off 2 bolts. Okay, opponent has a Boros Charm. Prowess Trigger, Prowess Trigger. We take 4. Opponent's got 6 damage lined up. We'll take it. Okay. Let's go ahead and Mystical Teachings. We will grab... I think Echoing Decay is safer. Untap, we draw Misty Rainforest. Play Misty. Hopefully they don't have a instant speed spell here, but cast an Echoing Decay. Ooh, we got him. Okay. Well, we're going to wait and see if our opponent will double burn spell to crack this forest, because we will have to get a Watery Grave. Opponent only has 1 burn spell. Hopefully it's not a life gain spell. Got a Watery Grave tapped. Untap, we draw Breeding Pool. Breeding Pool tapped. Pass the turn. We're seeing if we can bait out this last burn spell. Opponent cracks Wooded Foothills. We should have brought in 1 Dispel. I don't know why I didn't. Come on, just Boros Charm us. Or Tarka's Command. No? Okay. Opponent has an Exquisite Firecraft. It can't be countered. Okay, we go to 1. I have a feeling their last card is like an Atarka's Command effect. If we can get them to fire it off before they have a backup burn spell, we'll be okay. But getting them to do that. If they draw a creature, we can Abrupt Decay it, but if they have 2 burn spells, we're going to lose. I might have had an opportunity to try and fire it off earlier, but if it was if they're holding an Atarka's Command or a Skullcrack, we would just lose. At this point, we do have 6 mana. We can Teachings and get Logic Knot to counter. But that still doesn't get around the double burn spell. But it untaps and draws. Plays a land. Passes turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So we'll Breeding Pool tapped. Flashback Teachings. We can take Spell Snare or Snapcaster. We can also take Logic Knot. If we take Spell Snare, and they have a 2 mana burn spell plus Abrupt Decay, we can protect against burn spell creature. If we take Logic Knot, we can counter 1 spell. And if we take Snapcaster, we can try and Snapcaster Life Goes On. I think Spell Snare is our best take. It turns off enough of their on cards. Plus, it's a way that we can counter an Eidolon if they draw it. Opponent draws a card. Suspends a Rift Bolt. Okay, we untap, we draw. Misty Rainforest. So let's Crypt Incursion. Main phase. The only things they can use to prevent damage are... 2 mana, but if they have an instant speed burn spell, we're going to lose. We have to fire this off. We don't have another choice right now. So hopefully their last spell in hand that's a burn spell is 2 mana. It was a Skullcrack. It was probably more correct to take a Snapcaster Mage, but we made it. We survived. Okay, Rift Bolt coming off Suspend. Deals 3 to us. We go to 13. We have gained so much life this game. On Lava Spikes, we go to 10. We would really like a Snapcaster, a Teachings, Blue Sun, any of those cards. Crack Misty. Get an island. Untap. We draw. Logic Knot. Well, Logic Knot can be useful. We can prevent a big chunk of damage. Opponent suspends a Rift Bolt. We untap. We draw. Drowned Catacomb. Play Drowned Catacomb. Rift Bolt coming off Suspend for our opponent. I'm okay taking 3 here. I think our opponent has some scarier spells I would like to counter if they draw them. We do have to be mindful of how much life we have. Let's Growth Spiral, cycle. Okay. Cast Wilderness Reclamation, that turns on like our end game. If we draw Teachings, we're going to get pretty far. Untap all our lands. Okay, opponent goes for the Helix. We are going to counter. X is currently 4, 5, 6. We're going to exile our lands out of the grave because our Pulse is the only way we have to get them back, and we only have 1 or maybe 2 fetchable lands left. I think Eidolon is their strongest draw here, other than Exquisite Firecraft, maybe. We untap. We draw Hinterland Armor. That's not good. We need some non-land cards. We had some really good running earlier, but now we're kind of flooding out. Polluted Delta is not the land I want to see. Opponent has a Rest in Peace. It's gonna suck because we're not gonna be able to buy back any of our huge life gain, but it's good because it's not a. I don't believe it interacts with Nexus in any meaningful way. Play Field of Ruin. Damn. Oh, we top decked like 4 or 5 lands in a row. We gained so much life. Well. And it goes to show you, if you don't win the game, burn will kill you. Kitchen Finkel. Alright, we'll keep. See what happens here. Same deck. Mirror match. Calling it now. It's that or fairies. I guess it could be Grixis Death Shadow. I didn't think about that. I swear if I get Shadow of Doubted, I'll be really upset. Play Field of Ruin, pass the turn. can't Logic Knot, but we do have double Remand. Opponent opts. Cracks a Scalding Tarn. Steam Vents tapped. Alright, it's probably not Death Shadow. It might just be like a Grixis control deck. Plays Drowned Catacomb. Suspends Ancestral Visions. Definitely some kind of control. Let's play Watergrave tapped. Pass the turn. Hold up Remand. Ancestral Vision's ticking down. One plays a Polluted Delta and cracks it. One casts a Jace the Mind Sculptor. We Remand. Draw Misty Rainforest. Untap. Draw Creeping Tar Pit. I'll play Misty Rainforest. Pass the turn. Ancestral Vision still ticking down. Opponent not going to try and run out Jace again. Alright. Let's Growth Spiral. Put in a Creeping Tar Pit. Crack Misty. Get an island. Untap. We draw. Hieroglyphic Illumination. Alright. Ancestral getting close to coming off Suspend. Will pass. But I'm going to Snapcaster for Opt. Sure. We don't mind our opponent having one Snapcaster. It's kind of a slow threat. Opponent gets in for 2. Plays a Creeping Tar Pit. Let's Fatal Push. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and run this Hieroglyphic Illumination out. See if we can't bait a counter. If our opponent's Crypticing like counter and bounce Tar Pit, we're going to land Reclamation and be in a really good spot. Okay, opponent counter draws. We untap. We draw an island. That's actually super good. So let's play a Wilderness Reclamation. Pass the turn. Untap our lands. Okay. Ancestral Vision coming off Suspend. Opponent's going to have a bunch of cards in hand. They're going to have to cast something. So we're going to just let them play it out. Opponent going to Thoughtseize. Remand. Opponent remands Remand. Oh no, Remand's Thoughtseize. What's my Remand? Fizzle. Thoughtseize. Well, let's Blue Sun Zenith for 1. We draw Remand. Okay. Opponent can take whatever they want now. We have 2 counter spells. If we draw Teachings or a Nexus, we'll be in a good place. Opponent opts. If they play a big threat, we can Devour Flesh it. Okay, we untap. They discard a card. We discard Jace. We draw Blue Sun Zenith. That feels actually pretty fantastic. Let's just try and Blue Sun Zenith for 3. I'd like to draw land this turn. There's the land. Okay. 1 plus 7, we'll have 8 mana. Let's just untap our lands. Opponent has 8 cards in hand. Opponent plays a Drowned Catacomb. Well, that's teachings. Cool. Let's take Nexus of Fate. It's threatened that we have it the whole time. Play a Drowned Catacomb. Flashback Teachings. Basically just gonna go pick up a Remand, I think. Opponent scoops it up. They don't want to play it out. Alright. Dispel to Fairy. Shadow of Doubt seems good. I kind of want to run Surgical Extraction, but I don't like if they were heavy on a particular counterspell, I think I would, but given that they'll probably have a little bit of a strange split, I don't think I'm going to. I don't know. Fatal Push does answer Tar Pits, and it does answer Snapcasters, but it does not answer Tassigers or the Zombie Fish, Gurmag Angler. So I'm not sure if we want more Fatal Pushes. I don't think we do. We might want this Hero's Downfall. It might be a little superfluous. Let's drop an Opt. We'll drop... I think we drop a Cryptic. Let's get rid of... Ooh, what do we get rid of? Let's get rid of... I don't know. Let's drop a Fatal Push. Another Opt. Try like this. This is kind of tempting, but we definitely need 2 lands. Oh, that's the worst combination of lands in the deck. We don't have any blue mana. Would really like to Hieroglyphic Illumination. Oh, I think we have to keep it, though. If we go to 5, we're like almost 100% to lose. Okay, Drowned Catacomb on top. Opponent starts Tar Pit. We untap. We draw Catacomb. Play Catacomb tapped. Pass the turn. Opponent duresses. Takes Teachings. Plays a Steam Vents. We untap. We draw another Remand. Play Flooded Grove. Pass the turn. This does kind of suck because if they have a Surgical for our Teachings, it's not game over, but it will hurt. One has a Thoughtseize. We just Remand? Let's Remand and see if we can't draw a land. Draw a Dispel. One has another tapped Black Source. We untap. We draw a Logic Knot. Play a Swamp. Pass the turn. Opponent's got a Thoughtseize. Let's go ahead and Logic Knot for 3. I don't want Teachings to get Surgicaled. We're a long way off flashing it back anyway. Opponent's got a Mountain. Snapcasters for Thoughtseize. Okay. Well, opponent is almost out of resources. They do not have an Ancestral on suspend, thank goodness. Opponent takes Dispel. We untap. We draw a Growth Spiral. I think we cast Growth Spiral. Play an Island. Perfect. Pass the turn. Whew. We could have tried to cycle to hit another land there, but I don't think it was worth. Opponent plays a Drowned Catacomb. Fires up a Creeping Tar Pit. Gets in, gets in. I'll make them Devour Flesh. They'll sack the Snappy. Take us to 17. We untap. We draw Polluted Delta. Play Polluted Delta. Cast Illumination. Draw Shadow of Doubt. Okay. Opponent plays a Scalding Tarn. Collective Brutality. Gonna Duress mode. Probably takes Remand. Yeah. They're not going to be scared of Think Twice effectively now. Okay, fires up Tar Pit. Gets in for 3, takes us to 14. Crack Polluted Delta. Let's get a Breeding Pool. Tapped. Untap. We draw Growth Spiral. Well, let's Shadow of Doubt. Opt. Cryptic Bottom. Play a Tar Pit. Pass the turn. Opponent Vendilion clicks. Targets us. Okay. We're gonna let that resolve. They get rid of Snapcaster. You got no other action this turn. Cycle Growth Spiral. Put in Watergrave. Untap. We draw Teferi. Okay, Teferi might do some nasty things here. Our opponent may not be expecting that. Opponent gets in for 3. We go to 10. Okay, let's try and flash Teferi. Opponent's got a Cryptic for him. Draw Misty. So let's Teachings. Has Counter Squall. Play Misty, pass the turn. If they have a Bolt, we're dead. Fires up Tar Pit. Gonna get in for 6. We go to 2. 2 is the same as 1 here. Draw an Abrupt Decay. Well, let's Teachings. Yeah, we don't have an answer. Okay. So game 3. I think I want a Fatal Push back in. And we'll drop a Growth Spiral for it. Try it like this. That's right, that remand they remanded earlier. Oh, damn. Alright. So what do I think about this deck? I really like this deck, actually. I think it's a lot more powerful than my games demonstrate. I don't think I piloted it anywhere near optimally. I need a lot more practice with this deck if I'm going to actually rack up some serious wins with it. Tweaks are kind of hard to talk about in this moment because I'm not sure. Like, I already don't know all of the silver bullet, kind of like when I need the teachings, what I need the teachings for. It's hard to remember, you know, oh yeah, you can, like, if you teachings for this, if you teachings for Snapcaster and you Snapcaster Pulse, and then you Pulse for Snapcaster, and then you Snapcaster something else, like, you have to plan several, like, card actions ahead, and you need to maintain card advantage over your opponent, which with Growth Spiral is rather easy to do versus Control, especially when you're running so many lands, because generally versus Control, if you play more lands than your opponent and you like remand for tempo, you can kind of tempo into your Nexus of Fate combo kill and you'll win. Versus aggro, it's a little bit harder. I think I sideboarded very poorly for a lot of these games. I think taking out Opt is not something you want to be doing. I think you want to be opting Snapcastering for Opt, because we had several games where we just didn't draw lands and Opt would have gotten us there faster at the very least. I like the sideboard. I think the sideboard's pretty well made. I like the inclusion of some of the less played instant speed spells in the form of Echoing Decay, Consume the Meek, Shadow of Doubt, and Fracturing Gust. I think Life Goes On is a very good sideboard card for this deck. It's very powerful life gain in this version. I would like to play this more. I will probably play this on stream. I do really enjoy it. But I'm sorry because I played poorly this time around. Either way, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this helped you form an opinion on this deck. And, you know, if you enjoy watching this kind of content, then please, by all means, subscribe to this channel if you're so inclined, and I'll continue making more. So, until next time, bye!